Hello and welcome. Today I'm reviewing the Blocco Artisti watercolor papers by Fabriano. Some of you might have a slightly different looking watercolor pad. This is, I think, a special edition that was made to look ancient. And as some of you might know, I was in Rome the other day and there are two art shops called Poggi Art Store. There's one in the old city center and one in Trastevere, and that's where I got them. But you can also order them online and I will put the link in the description. So I've got two different types of paper. One of them is textured and the other one is cold press. You will see the difference later on. Each pad has 20 sheets, 300 grams, and they're 50% cotton and 50% mystery. Yeah, this one is the cold press, the larger one, and the small one with the red label is textured. Now I'm gonna try some different materials and medias on this paper, just so that you can see how it reacts to water and ink and all that. And around the pad there's a layer of gum or wax to avoid buckling, so you have to cut it out later. Yeah, here I'm just wetting the area to try the wet on wet technique with my Schminke. No, Schminke is my gouache, sorry. It's my Winsor & Newton watercolors. So everything you see here is just with those watercolors. It might look different if you have different watercolors. And you will see the effect once it's dried. I will show them later in the clip, so you can compare them and see which paper you like better or if it's the right thing for you. Next I'm trying wet on dry. That's just the same color, but I didn't put a ton of water on the paper before. I think in that case you can mostly see how well the color is visible, if it stays very vibrant or if a lot of the color gets sucked in and it's getting a bit dull. And yeah, this here is just to see how long it takes to dry, and the textured paper dried much quicker. Also, if it looks a bit strange, I'm usually used to draw and paint on hot pressed paper, hot pressed watercolor paper, which is very smooth. And I wanted to try something with a bit more texture, but I'm not used to it yet. So yeah, excuse me if I'm making any mistakes, but I think I did quite well. This one's gonna be just a test for gradients and to see if there's if it's leaving borders, if it's granulating. And yeah, these are also still the Winsor & Newton watercolors. During the drying process, the colors usually go in different direction depending on how fast the paper dries and how much of the water is being absorbed. And you will see that very soon, the difference. And there is quite a lot difference between those two types of paper. I also tried some other pens and inks. This here is the Finetec Gold ink. I don't think it really matters where you draw on or where you use this ink, because it's so intense that it doesn't make a difference. But since I believe a lot of people are using it, I thought I'll just include it. This is the Finetech brush. No, it's not Finetech, I'm sorry, it's Pentel. The other one was Finetech. Oh, I should read my notes. Yeah, this is just a water-based brush pen with very intense ink, and I wanted to see if maybe it bleeds through or anything. And there's the Tombow marker, also water-based, just to see. Markers are not really good for watercolor paper because the paper really drinks up the ink. This one is the Ecoline. Yeah, it's also a marker, but it's more like watercolor, so you can reactivate it and use it for different watercolor effects. There's an alcohol-based marker called Graphite Beta, I believe, and it wasn't a good idea. The paper was just drinking the ink, so maybe don't waste your expensive markers on it and use proper marker paper. So for all of you who are doing illustrations, I also tried the Tombow Calligraphy Pen and the Micron PN. I think it's some sort of fine liner. It worked well in both cases, so you will see the close-up later. I was very pleased with it. And then I tried how the paper reacts to an eraser. The first one is a very soft lead, like a 9B even, and the other one is a bit harder. That could be 2 or 3H. I don't remember anymore, but it's a soft and a hard one. And the eraser is by Carandash. I wouldn't use the soft leads for sketching at all because they are hard to erase and they're smearing and getting all over the place. But the paper didn't rip or, you know, it didn't get destroyed. It's quite sturdy. And that's what I wanted to see. So everything that stays is to blame on the pencils and not on the paper. And this is my Schminke gouache. The paint didn't really react to the paper or react with the paper at all. But yeah, just so that you can see. And here I tried 2 different watercolor pencils. And mostly I wanted to see if you can use this masking tape. It did work with the cold press. The texture was just way too textured, and I don't know, maybe I need a stickier tape or press it down harder. Yeah, it didn't leave a smooth border. Maybe it was my fault, but the cold press, since it's not as rough, it's no problem to use masking tape. Then next I was testing how the color lifting works. That's when you try to get some watercolor off the paper, almost like erasing it. And it works very well, but it does depend on the type of watercolor, so it's not entirely the paper. The reactivation depends a lot on what type of watercolor paint you're using. But as you can see, I can remove quite a lot of this vibrant orange with both types of papers. And again, you will see a close-up version a bit later, so you can look at it in peace and examine it thoroughly. Yeah, that's just me doing some removal work. And I also reactivated the Ecoline brush and the gouache. there's really a difference between the papers when I compared the Ecoline. The gouache, as I said, I think it doesn't really matter where you use it, because it's just so, it's a very thick paste. Maybe if you thin it out quite a lot, then I wouldn't exactly use printer paper, but you know, gouache is an all-round color and you can do whatever you want with it. But just for the experiment's sake, I've included it. Now, yeah, here's the close-up. So you can see the smaller one is the textured and the larger one the cold press. And in my opinion, the textured is very good if you want some intense gradients, special effects, for everything that should be a smooth illustration or something very realistic. I would go for cold press, simply because everything is way smoother, but it doesn't look as I don't know, you just don't get those very, very cool effects. And the alcohol marker bled through a bit. You can see it here. It's not strong, but as I said, you shouldn't use alcohol markers on this anyway. So yeah, that's it basically. Those are my two papers, and thanks for watching.